Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I am so excited that you are here. If you have not yet, please click that subscribe button so you get notified every single time I post a video and you just support me along my journey as well. Today, I am very excited to be sharing another podcast episode. This one is such a good one. It has so many golden nuggets and it is an interview with my friend, Mikayla Burkart. Me and Mikayla have been friends since we were really young. So we played ringette together, which is an ice sport, if you don't know what that is. And when I stopped playing ringette, then our friendship kind of, disappeared as well. But we got reunited when we both started going to Foothills Academy, which is a school special with kids with learning disabilities. And we were able to reunite, and over the years, we have just become besties. And I just love her story so much. I think it's so inspirational. In this conversation, we talk about a lot of different things. The main thing we talk about is school. So we talk about the effects of having a learning disability and getting help and getting support when you need it. And then also talked about her university journey and how she initially went into school for becoming a nurse, but ended up dropping out to follow her heart and a passion of hers, which is drawing. And now she's attending an art school, which is just so exciting. And I'm so proud of her. So I can't wait for you to hear a little bit about her experiences and her story and how she has overcome so many obstacles. So let's get into it.
Hi, my name is Mikayla Burkart and I'm 21. I was born here in Calgary and yeah, I'm really excited to start this interview.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about your childhood, like what your family situation was like and anything else that you feel like you want to include?
So my childhood was pretty good. I have both of my parents and yeah, my mom always did things with me. I just remember having a really good childhood. I did a lot of sports. I, dance, horseback riding, gymnastics, and ringette, which is where you and I met.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't remember anything bad about my childhood. It was just like really good. Yeah. I never saw myself as like struggling with anything. It was just me.
Right. So you have no siblings then?
No, I'm just me.
Awesome. All right. So can you tell us a little bit about like your school journey?
So I did relatively good in school throughout, I want to say, elementary and middle school. Teachers would always write in your report card being like, oh, she's really social. She loves to distract others.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's just a social butterfly. And that was just me. And I always got really good grades in school. I had a lot of friends. And then in about 5th grade, I did get bullied. And I ended up moving schools in grade 6. I went to a middle school here in Cochrane and made friends there and succeeded there as well. Like, it wasn't really a bad thing. I think it really happened when I hit high school, where things started to go downhill a little bit with my mental health and my grades as well, which was it was a really big struggle for me. I don't think, it like sucks to think back at that time because that's not the person I am today. But I think that's kind of where things went downhill a little bit for me. It was definitely high school. Really that transition between middle school and high school.
Okay.
Because in terms of like my grades and just my obvious like mental health.
Yeah.
Especially for me, because I ended up going to a different high school than all of my friends did.
Right.
I chose to go to a high school in town, but a smaller one. It didn't have as many kids. It wasn't as claustrophobic for me. And it was a really tough decision, but I did it just because I knew what would be best for me. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and I was really excited going into high school, I think, because I was like ready to get started. And then my grades didn't do well. And then I, just kind of gave up a little bit.
Yeah. So can you explain some of those feelings around like how the mental health affected you and some of those, like just dig a little deeper into some of those feelings you were feeling at that time?
I think I just felt kind of like very like zero self-confidence.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like I was, you know, a really bad student, that I wasn't reliable. I was stupid because I felt like I was doing so well in middle school and in elementary school. Why am I like failing so much at this new school?
Mm-hmm.
And I've never been super into school. Like I've always, even today,
Yeah.
you're like that. Yeah. I've never really been into school in that way. Like it was just something you did, but I was never like loving school.
Right.
It didn't interest me. I got bored easily,
Mm-hmm.
which now we know why.
Yeah.
But it was just like, I just didn't like it.
It was just
and,
like
yeah, and I think for me, the disappointment wasn't necessarily, it wasn't that I did hate myself at that time in high school, but it wasn't because of, I don't think it was so much me, but it was also the fact that I was disappointing my parents, specifically my mom. Because my dad really, he couldn't, he cared, but like, not in the same way. Like my dad obviously cares about my grades and like how good I'm doing in school, but my mom was always like there to pretty much make sure that I was doing what I was supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And knowing that I wasn't was really tough. I stopped going to school. I would fake being sick, mm-hmm. which I got really good at over the course of that year. Yeah. And I started getting into really bad fights with my mom. Our relationship kind of crumbled a little bit. It was just really tough and a dark period of my life that I'm happy is over.
Yeah. So you said you stopped going to school. You were, you're pretending to be sick and everything. So then what was the next step that you guys decided to take, or like, did you stay in that state?
I think that it was, I don't know if it was one of my teachers or someone suggested that I might have ADHD. Mm-hmm. Or something else, just something along that. And, at the time, like mental health wasn't talked about as much as it is today. Like it wasn't that long ago. I mean, I graduated in 2018, but like it just still wasn't really a thing then. I hadn't really heard, I knew what ADHD was, of course, but in my mind, ADHD was very hyper people who can't chill out and sit down, like, which wasn't me. And so my parents were like, maybe she is, because when you looked back at, like I said before, my report cards, they always classify you as a social butterfly, wanting to talk to everybody. I always had to be separated from people when I was sitting down, especially in elementary school, because I wouldn't stop talking, which, I still deal with today, but it's just one of those things. So my parents decided, she's going through a really tough time. Maybe there's a reason for this. Let's go to a psychiatrist and see what's going on. So I can't remember how long it's a long process though. It's like, for me, it was a couple days. Okay. And so, doing all these different tests and stuff. And there was a huge part of me like that wanted it to be true, because that meant that I wasn't stupid, that there was actually a reason for this. Yeah. And why I can't focus and why I'm struggling so much in school and all the other kids aren't. Mm-hmm. And so after all that, all those tests, it turned out that I like to say that it's ADD with a little bit of H, because firsthand when the meds wear off, it's like crazy. But it's like, I was pretty much diagnosed with ADD/ADHD, but more on the ADD side of things.
Right. So were you diagnosed with any other like learning disabilities or anything like that?
I was diagnosed with dyscalculia, which is the same as dyslexia, but with numbers, which made a whole lot of sense because I suck at math. I can't do numbers. You know that too. I cannot do numbers. They just don't, numbers that I don't click. It's not cute. So yeah, so that was really an interesting discovery to find. That's one thing that we didn't expect to hear, was that one, but the ADD part of it was pretty much there.
Right. Okay. So you've been tested now. You've come out with these results. And so did you stay at school? What did you do next?
So this is the part where I'm not sure. Did my mom hear about the school from your family?
I don't know, actually. Maybe.
Like, I don't know how it came about. I was going to ask my mom and then I forgot.
Didn't we go at the same time?
No, because I think you went there a year before I did.
Okay. Okay, so maybe.
Yeah, because you were already there. So I'm assuming that your mom saw my mom somewhere, maybe at the grocery store. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
Started chatting about, oh, how's Selena doing? You know, things like that. Maybe heard about it from there, or maybe my mom already knew. Who knows? Yeah. But yeah, so we heard about Foothills Academy, which is a private school in Calgary, and they specialize in kids with learning disabilities. That's why they created the schools, to help those people. It's a smaller school. At the time when I was there was, 12 to a class, 15 to a class? Yeah, 12. It was really small classes. And the workload was slower because they weren't semestered, and just seemed like the perfect fit for me. You know, the school that I was going to at the moment was not it. It was just like not great for me because I was struggling a lot. And so we decided to look into Foothills, and I toured the school. I toured Rundle Academy is the other school, I think. Mm-hmm. That is the same type of school. I toured that one. I didn't like it as much. The school's great, but I just never really, it didn't, the vibe wasn't there for me.
Yeah. What would you say the biggest difference between the public school that you were at to this private school?
Oh my gosh. It's hard to even put it into words. I mean, you know this, like it's a complete difference.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of public schools, when they find out that you've got like a learning disability or something, they'll put you in a special class.
Yes.
With all the other kids. Mm-hmm. And usually it's a mixture of kids that are, you know, they have learning disabilities, are maybe autistic, or have Down syndrome or anything like that. And they kind of just put you into that room, and that is the room that you can do work in in a certain period during the day. Like,
that's trying to separate you from everyone else, right?
Yeah.
Find out, they're like, oh my goodness. But I think sometimes there's a behavioral difference. Some people have behavioral, some don't, and so it's very complex.
Yeah, they could be like the troubled kids that are like drinking at school or doing crazy stuff like that. But that's what happens in public school. Like, that's just kind of how it is sometimes.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it was really, it's a complete difference. The way that Foothills, when I went there, the way that they handled things were like way better. They understood. A lot of our teachers had learning disabilities as well. Mm-hmm. Mr. Reddick, shout out to Mr. Reddick. He is like Tigger, but like human form, from like Winnie the Pooh, like for real. He is the best math teacher I ever had. And he really understood me. Mm-hmm. And so the teachers, like they had learning disabilities themselves. Miss Barber, shout out to Miss Barber too. Like she's so much like me.
Yeah.
She really was able to understand me, and also like not harp on me too much. She kind of eased me into it and understood where I came from and what my past was and how bad I was doing that year before. Mm. The teachers just really understood, and they knew their kids. Mm-hmm. They would always be there for you to ask questions after school. They were just like, they were great, but the kids were great too, at least in my grade. Yeah. So it was like, you know, you just became kind of like a family at that school. And I think that has a lot to do, obviously, with the class sizes. And just the teachers really cared. Not to say that there's teachers in public school that don't care, but it's just a different level of like wanting you to succeed, I guess.
Yeah. And I always say that, like, yes, they care so much, but they are like willing to put the time in to make a connection with you. And like, you know, you said it, the small class sizes, they can really pick up on like how you act, and then they can sense problems or whatever. And they're just really there to support you the whole way through, which that was one of the biggest difference I found as well.
Yeah. I really loved that school. And I do think that if I didn't go to Foothills, I would have dropped out of high school 100%. I don't think I would have graduated, because my care was like, I didn't care anymore. It was just completely out the window. I literally couldn't care less. So it was like, whatever happens. I think my diagnosis was a saving grace. And I think that if none of that happened, I wouldn't be here today doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what was it like? So now you're at the new school. Was there still challenges presented there, or was it like easy breezy? I know the answer to this, but I'm just asking.
There were still challenges. It was not easy.
Yeah.
My grades didn't get better overnight. You know, I still struggled a lot, because even though the pace was slower, which was amazing and a lot easier, the content that we were like absorbing was still hard. It was still difficult. It wasn't easy because, we went to a school of learning disabilities, like we're going to dumb everything down. Like that's not how it went.
Same as the public school.
Yeah, it was the exact same stuff that we learned in public school, but it was just at a slower pace. So the stuff we were learning was still difficult, but I was also still having to gain back my confidence in myself and caring. You know, my first year at Foothills, I dropped out of sports. I wanted to focus on my school because I had done so bad the year before. And so that was really tough. And, you know, that came with its own consequences. Of course, you know, sports world, there's a lot of political stuff that goes on and all that. But I think it was worth it still, because my education was a lot more important. And I still went back and did ringette afterwards when I was ready to. And I still had a blast and loved the girls that I worked with. But yeah, it was tough. And I still struggled with my grades. I don't think I ever got back to that point in like middle school and stuff, which is a horrible, like it's middle school, like, you know,
it's kind of not good to compare those two things.
No, but in my mind, that's kind of, you know, when you spend your whole life in school and you're getting like 80s, like high 70s, like really high 70s, high 80s, 90s even. And then you go to high school and you're like, you know, 50s, 60s, 40s even, you know. And so it kind of just declines. And you're like, wow, okay, this is not what I wanted.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I never really got the grades that I wanted to in the end, but I think that I'm still proud of what I did. And at the end of the day, my grades didn't really end up mattering. So
yeah.
With what I'm doing.
What did you want to be when you grew up? Like, what was your dream job, I guess, when you were a little bit younger?
I think the earliest memory that I have of, I think it was grade 1, and they give you this sheet of paper and they're like, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah. And
I wrote down veterinarian, because my friend who I was close to at the time wanted to be one. And I was like, oh my God, me too. Yeah. So I wrote that down. Absolutely not. I think I did want to be one, like at one point, but it was very short-lived. It was like, no. Yeah. I didn't really want to do that, but I was like, my friend is, so I'll just write that down, because I don't really know what I want to do. Like, you're 7 years old. Like, what do you want to do when you grow up? I don't know. Live, I guess. Like, just be a princess or something. Like, I don't know. It's unrealistic. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think I really kind of had this thought in my head that I wanted to be a nurse, I think, until maybe like the end of middle school, like maybe like grade 7 or 8. I didn't really know what I wanted to do for a long time. But I think that, you know, I was like, yeah, well, my mom's a nurse. And I guess I'll do that.
Yeah.
And I think that is what I wanted to do at the time. And I was like, sure, I'll do this, not even knowing what was going to come up about grades, competitive averages, and all of that.
Yeah.
Not even thinking about that, because you really don't know until you're there. Or if you've had a sibling that's already been through all that, then you would know. But if you don't, then you're just like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, you get good grades and then you get it.
Yeah.
Don't think about it too much. And so all throughout high school, that's what I was like, that was my goal. And then there was a point, you know, where I wanted to do midwifery, which I think I would still love to do if I was given the option. I love what I'm doing now, but if I could, I would love to do that. I wanted to, with nursing specifically, I really wanted to do labor and delivery and like, or in the NICU with all the premature babies and all that kind of stuff. And like I said, I think today, if I was given the choice or the opportunity even, like, I would do it, because I think that I think that it would be an enjoyable job for me.
Yeah.
But, you know, at the end of the day, I didn't have the grades. So when I graduated from high school, I don't even know what my average was. It wasn't very high. And so the competitive average, I think, for the university that I wanted to go to, I think it was like 98% average or something.
That sounds about right.
Which I didn't have, not even close to. And so I was like, okay, what do I do now?
I'm curious to like dig a little deeper into how you felt at that point, because you know, you had wanted to do something pretty badly. I mean, I was standing there, not standing there, but I was walking with you through your journey as well. And I knew that you really wanted this. So I'm sure that it wasn't just like, oh, well, I'm sure it was a little bit more devastating than that. So would you go into a little bit?
No, it was tough. There was a lot of crying, a lot of mental breakdowns, you know, crying late at night, like 3 o'clock in the morning, wondering, what does this all mean? And like, just like really having an identity crisis. Because at this point, you know, like, this is what I wanted to do at the time. I was like so gung-ho to do this.
Yeah.
And then I just like put into this like situation. Yeah. And then I was just like put into this situation where I wasn't able to do that. And yeah, it was kind of a struggle for sure. Yeah, you witnessed all of that. I just really like felt dumb again. I think I felt not the same as what I did in that grade 9 year, but I definitely did feel like a failure, because, you know, all of my friends were getting really good grades too. But I was also,
how do you cope with that?
I don't know. I think I'm really good at hiding things, I think. Not to like my friends and stuff, because I always talk to like my friends or whatever about like what I'm going through. But I think for my parents and just people around, I'm really good at hiding that stuff, because I don't talk about it. I just kind of keep it in and just try to not have a mental breakdown and freak out. Like, that's kind of where I go. But yeah, I think I just really focused on the things ahead. I found out about the university that I wanted to go to. They had a general studies program, I think, or no, university entrance option. Was that what it was?
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, which was pretty much, you could take 4 university level courses in 1 semester. And if you got like a certain average in all of those classes, then you would be able to get into the nursing program. And that was my goal. Thinking back, I'm like, you idiot. So I'm like, you literally were going to take 4 university courses in your first year of university and think that you could do that?
Like running full speed. Yeah.
I was really like Like, I really did that.
But you were passionate. That just shows how driven you were because you wanted that pretty badly. And so, like, you just put yourself, maybe in not the best situation, but in a situation that you thought would get you to where you want. So I don't really think it's a bad thing. Maybe looking back, you're kind of like, maybe that was not the right decision. But I think, it just shows that you were so passionate about this.
Well, and I think I was thinking about it yesterday too, just like thinking back on how I kind of felt at the time. And yeah, I was passionate about it, but at the same time, I wasn't. Because when I was doing those classes, I gave up on them.
What university were you at this?
Mount Royal University in Calgary. So yeah, it was it was a very like class. It was a class that I didn't really enjoy. And not what I expected. So I was like, hey, well, I'm checked out of this. Yeah. For me, it's like, I really have to be interested in it or else it's not happening. Yeah. That's the unfortunate thing. So yeah, for me, it was like, hey, well, I don't like that. Let's move on.
So you're checking out of all these classes. So what do you do now? Like, what was the next step? Because were you like ready to drop out of university or what was your next step?
I was ready to drop out. Yeah. I got my first ever migraine because I was so stressed. I've never had a migraine before. And I was like, I can't do this. And then I ended up realizing, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I don't know where I'm going to end up, but I was like, I don't want to do it anymore. And so I ended up sitting down with my parents, and I knew that my dad was going to be kind of against it. I knew that my mom wasn't going to love it because she would say to me like, well, at least try, which I'm like, I have been, it's not working out. Yeah. So I just kind of sat down with them. I was like, listen, like my mental health is really bad. My anxiety is like through the roof. I'm depressed.
Yeah. You weren't enjoying what you were doing at all.
No, and I was for sure depressed too, like, you know, and then you're also in this transition period from high school to university where you've got no friends. Yeah. Because your friends have either moved away or you're never going to see them because their timetable is crazier than yours or, you know. And so I was just alone, which is like really sad, but I was alone. And I don't have siblings to talk about it with or anything like that. So I'm literally alone. Yeah. And I don't have friends at this point. I really don't. I mean, obviously you were there, but like we always go months without talking. Yes. At that time, not anymore, but like at that time we did. Yeah. And so it was like, you know, hate this. So I definitely told my parents, they were against it, but I think in the end they kind of agreed because they were like, yeah, she's not doing well. And yeah, and then I just dropped out, but my mom convinced me to stay with one class, which was the English class, which thank God she did because it's come in handy a lot for transfer credits and things for other things. So yeah, it was not good, but I ended up dropping out of those three, staying with the one, finishing the semester. I did well in that class. I've always been pretty good at writing. Yeah. So that was okay. But yeah.
And then what was your step after that semester?
So we had heard about the LPN program at Bow Valley College, which I'll get into it a little bit, but that was a whole other thing with me as well, mental health wise, confidence wise as well too. And so, yeah, so we had heard about it. So if you did the LPN program, which for those who don't know, LPN is pretty much like a step down from an RN, but they are constantly updating what they do in a day. So they're pretty much the same as the RN. I don't think they don't push meds or anything like that though.
Okay.
Something, I don't know, but it's very similar to an RN. It's just one step down. And so I was like, hey, well, I'll do that. And then they had an option where you could do 2 years. So the program for the LPN is only 2 years. And then you can do 2 years online with the University of Athabasca to become an RN. like, you've done the first 2 years, now do the rest online type of thing.
Okay.
So I was like, sure, I can do that. I guess that's another way to do this. And so I ended up doing it. I got a couple of friends and, well, really just one. I made a couple in different classes, but one that I really talked to. And so, yeah, so her and I kind of stuck together a little bit. And then she ended up going forward, and we weren't in the same classes anymore. Not because I failed or anything, just because she, I think she was ahead of me already.
Right.
We just had one class together. And so then I was alone again. And the thing with Bow Valley College is that a lot of your classmates are from the Philippines and are older than you. You're really the minority there, which was a culture shock for me, being the majority for the most of my life.
Yeah.
At the schools that I was going to. And so that was a struggle for me too, just not really finding my people.
Right.
And then, I started the program, and then COVID hit. And
let me pause you here. I need to ask you questions. So before we get into COVID, so did you feel like almost pressured that you had to go into this? Was this something that you want? Like, what role did your mom play in this? Because I know, like, personally me, I would love to do anything but just please my parents. Like, I'm a person pleaser, but especially to my parents. And so I'm wondering if you had some of, like, those feelings going into this.
Yeah, I definitely did. I think that I just really didn't want to let down my mom. I think my dad, I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
My dad.
Yeah.
And at this point they were divorced. So it was like, he lives in a different house, which is, I still love my dad. I still see him every day.
Yeah.
But, he's not asking me, oh, how was your day? How's school going? He doesn't ask me that.
Right. And your mom is the one who does that.
My mom's the one that's like, did you hand in your assignments? Have you done your homework? Don't you have to do something? Don't you have to call this person? She still does it today. Yeah. Love her to death, but I'm 21. But she still that's just who she is, because she wants me to succeed. She does. It's all out of good heart. Like, it's not in any way, she thinks I can't. It's because, she wants me to do better.
Right.
So, yeah, I think there was a huge part. I was thinking about it yesterday too. Like, a lot of the women that my mom worked with, their kids all become something in healthcare, right. Whether that's, a physiotherapist or anything, a nurse, paramedic, like anything, that's what we all go into. Mm-hmm. That's what our mom does.
Yeah.
For them too, like, a lot of their dads do it as well. A lot of their dads are like physicians or something. So it's just something you did.
Yeah.
And I never thought about it in that way before, but then it's like, that's just what you've seen people do. So that's just what you assume that you have to do yourself.
Yeah, you were just kind of following the grain of what everyone else was doing.
Yeah, and so I was like, hey, well, I guess I have to do this. And then, I've been working so hard to be this. It felt kind of, because at this point it was not 2020 yet. It was 2019, I think. That's when I started. So I graduated in 2018, June of 2018. So it's been a while. Mm-hmm. And right. So it's 2019 now. And so I was like, okay, well, this is it, I guess. Yeah. This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And I did. I was doing well in my classes, and then the school decided to make all of our tests short answer because people were cheating.
Well, so was this because of COVID, or was this before?
This is before COVID.
Oh, geez. Okay.
So we were like, that sucks. So all of our tests were short answer, which was like, you don't know the answer?
Yeah.
Sucks to be you then. And I was like, this sucks. Like, I'm a really like visual person. Mm-hmm. So if I see on a multiple choice, if I see the answer there, like, I'm going to know which one it is. If I've studied really hard, obviously, but
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit harder for sure.
Yeah. And so I was like, well, this sucks. Like, and it's all because people were cheating. I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
So now it's all short answer. And that, okay, it is what it is. I had failed my math class. Math isn't my friend.
Yeah.
And so I failed math. I was having to redo that, which means that all the friends that I had made in that first semester were now moving ahead of me, and I was having to stay back because the way that it worked was like you can't move forward if you don't pass everything in that semester.
Right.
I was having to retake math, and then I had to retake it again because I failed it again.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's again when I started to hate everything and I didn't want to do it anymore.
Right.
Of this one class, it was like, why can't I do this? Yeah. And then COVID hit and everything was moved online. And I was having to do my math class online, which I didn't go because it was online. So I literally I didn't show up to my class. And yeah, that was pretty much it. I just shut down, didn't care anymore. And I got extremely depressed.
Yeah, I was going to say the effects of COVID. I was going to say if you could go into that a little bit more.
So like my life didn't change when COVID happened, really.
Mm-hmm.
I don't leave my house.
Yeah.
Like, you know that I literally stay here all the time.
You still left for school though. You still left for school. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's because I had to.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, when COVID hit, like my daily routine didn't really change. Because at this point, I think I was only going into the school like once a week or something. It was like, because I was redoing a class, so it wasn't really anything crazy. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, hey, well, you know, I don't need to do this anymore. So whatever. And I just like stopped. My life didn't change at all when COVID hit. And so I was like staying at home. And I got really, really depressed, really sad and depressed. And I was like, okay, well, I don't want to do this. And so I ended up watching one of my favorite YouTubers, I guess. She's more of an artist than a YouTuber, but I started watching her videos again. Lulu Sketches on YouTube. Shout out. Thank you for curing my depression. Doesn't know who I am, but thank you.
So did you drop out of school and then you started? No, you're still in school.
I'm still in school. Okay. I'm just not going. And so I was like, I'm just going to start drawing again. So I started watching her videos and I just got really inspired. And I hadn't done anything like that since high school.
Yeah.
Like, because, you know, I was in art in high school and I really loved it. And and so I hadn't really done anything like that since high school ended. And so I was like, maybe I'll start drawing again. And I wanted to start drawing people, which I'd never done before, really. And so started doing that again. And I really started to enjoy it. And my mom was like, you're not doing school. I was like, no, I'm drawing. She was like,
yeah,
well, you have to do school. Like, what do you mean you're not doing school and you're drawing? And so she ended up getting mad at me for that. I was still really depressed. And she was like, you know, let's go to the doctor, because I was not doing well. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, I don't want to go to the doctor. Like, I'm not depressed.
You're like, I'm fine. Everything is fine.
Yeah. Because I was like, I'm not depressed. Like, I don't want to, I don't have like suicidal thoughts. I'm not hurting myself. I'm not staying in bed all day sad. I'm still showering. I'm still doing all that stuff. I'm not depressed, because that's what I think depression is, or that's what I've been told or shown. Right. You know? And so I was like, I'm not depressed. But I was like, fine, just to make you happy, I'll go to the doctor. Yeah. And so ended up going to the doctor, and she made me fill out this like form that was like, do you feel like this? Do you feel like that? So I filled all of that out, and then that determined that I had moderate depression, which isn't it isn't a lot, but it's still depression.
Yeah.
And then I just remember it's so embarrassing, but she asked me, like, how are you doing? And I just started crying in the doctor's office. And I was like, I hate my life, like, I just don't want to be in school anymore. I hate this. I don't want to be a nurse anymore, because at that point, the drive was gone, the passion was gone, and my interest in it was gone. I was like, I don't want to do this. The stuff doesn't interest me.
Yeah.
And it never really did. And I think that in my head, I was like, well, I'll just do school, but then I'll be a nurse and I'll be doing what I want to do.
Right.
But it's like, no, you still have to do this. You still have to do that. These are all the classes that you have to take to do this. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, but I don't want to do those classes. I just want to do the ones I like, which is obviously unrealistic. And so, yeah, I just kind of, my doctor was like, hey, well, maybe you should go to therapy. And I was like, maybe I should.
Good recommendation.
Yeah. So she gave me the name of a therapist in town, and I was like, well, I'll try one appointment just to see. And I never really was like against going to therapy. And I think that the school that we went to had a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
Like, it was just a thing that you did. Literally everybody went to therapy. There was a therapist in our school.
Multiple counselors. Yes.
Yeah. Like, it was just like, that's just normal. It's like, oh, sorry guys, I have to go to counseling. It's like, hey, see you next period.
Exactly. It was super normal at our school. Yeah. And I can speak to that because I was in counseling since grade 10 to 12. And it was like the best thing for me at the time. Yeah. But like, it really, really does help. But at the school, they foster an environment where it's okay to ask for help and it's okay to reach out for those kind of extra things you may need. So I agree.
Yeah, it was just like a thing that you did. It wasn't anything weird. Same with our learning disabilities too. Like, some people will be really like careful what they say to you about it. And I'm just like, yeah, this is what I've got.
Me too.
Because it's just like everyone had it at our school. So it was like, yeah, this is what we have. And like, what? It doesn't like bring us down or anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I was like, hey, well, I guess I'll go to therapy. And for me, it was, I know that there is a slight difference between therapy and counseling, because obviously you go to counseling and I went to therapy. Mm-hmm. And so we've kind of like compared the two, and it is a little bit different. Yeah. But I was going to therapy. And so I was like, this is really weird. I didn't really know what to expect. I was afraid that something was going to come up, like some thing that I've been like hiding my whole life that's like gonna come out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know about that. Like,
yeah.
That didn't end up happening, but thank God. But yeah, I had my first session, and I think at that point, like, I was really going to therapy to kind of make that decision about whether or not I was going to go back to school or continue. And I think that even before I had therapy, I'd already made the decision myself. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to go, because I knew that it's not what I wanted. Yeah. So when she asked me, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to go. And we kind of went over like the pros and cons of me not going back to school and kind of what that would mean for me and where my future will take me. Mm-hmm. And I think that I was so afraid of going back to, like, not going back to school. I think that's why I went straight into university, because I thought that if I took a year off, I would never go back.
Well, that's what we're told, honestly. Like, you are not the only one who felt that, because me, as someone who just graduated to 1 year ago or whatever it is, I felt like that's the right choice. You need to take school, because if you don't, then you're never going to go back. And that's what you're kind of told as well.
Yeah. And so my cousin had said that too when she was living with us at one point. She had said the same thing to me. And I just kind of figured, like, yeah, I'm never going to go back if I don't go straight to school. Mm-hmm. And so I went straight to school, and it obviously didn't work very well.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so I kind of talked about that with my therapist a little bit, and just kind of, you know, what that meant. And I think that she was like, I love my therapist. She was really supportive and everything, which is great because I know that it's rare to find your person when you like are just the first person that you go to is usually not the person that you're going to continue going to.
Yeah.
But she was just a really nice lady. And yeah, she really helped me through a lot of things, made me like kind of handle my mental health like head on in a way.
Yeah.
You know, you have anxiety. What does that mean? You know, and my depression was cured pretty quick because I'm very self-aware.
Yeah.
And she knew that. So it was like, yeah, I know that I do this and I know that I do that. I'm not like faking it, being like, well, I don't do stuff like that. Or,
yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I was really self-aware and really open-minded to a lot of the things that she wanted me to work on. Which was just focusing on my anxiety and everything. And during my time at therapy, I ended up realizing she told me that I had something called depersonalization, which I had experienced throughout my whole life, really started to happen around, I want to say 2015 was pretty bad for it. Okay. And for those who don't know, depersonalization, it's really hard to explain, but it's pretty much the feeling that you're in a dream, like nothing is real, you're not real, and it just feels like you're looking through your eyes. It's hard to explain, and if you could, I would definitely look into that if anyone would be interested in that. But yeah, I didn't know that about myself. And so she helped me a lot dealing with that because it was holding me back for a lot of stuff in my life, of not going out with my friends or doing things. And I still deal with it today, even something as simple as going to the store for shampoo, which, you know, I can just order that online. But I still struggle with that. Just the fear of that feeling happening again, that anxiety kind of creeping up is definitely still a fear, but it's something that I work on. But yeah, I really am thankful that I went to therapy. I think it was the best thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I realized a lot of things about myself in terms of my anxiety, depression, and what I really wanted.
That's so good. Okay, so you've gone to therapy, you've dropped out of school, you've made that decision, and I mean, it looks like you've really taken the time to like look inward and face some of those challenges that you've experienced multiple times, like your loneliness, some of your depression, and all of that. You've decided to actually take action on that and figure out what's kind of going on within. So once you were done doing all that, what were you doing in the meantime, and what are you going to do in the future?
So after I was done all that, I decided that I wanted to be an artist, which is something that I'd always been interested in, even as a kid. But when you say that you want to be an artist, pretty much they always tell you, like, that's a really good hobby. Yeah. What's going to be your real job? Yeah. And it's like, what do you mean? I can do this as my real job. Mm-hmm. You know, it always seemed unrealistic. But being an artist isn't the same as what it was way back when it was like, you know, you're a starving artist. Yeah. There's no money. Yeah. You're psychotic, like all of that kind of
social media, which really gives you lots of opportunities.
Yeah, which, you know, I've really benefited from. Obviously, I did start an Instagram page for my art, and I didn't really know what I was going to post on there. I was just kind of posting whenever I wanted to. And then I did a drawing that kind of took off and got a lot of likes from some really amazing people that, you know, that the drawing was of. And I started, you know, chatting with them, and they asked me to do a couple of commissions, and it was kind of like, you know, I can really do this as my job. And yeah, so I've been given some opportunities because of doing what I want to do, but I can also tell like I'm a lot happier now with doing, and I think you've probably seen that in me too. Like I'm just like, I'm more sure in myself. Yeah. This is what I want to do and I'm enjoying it. But I've noticed too that I'm working for it too. Yeah. You know, if it was like school, then I would just be like, whatever, like, who cares about this? I don't want to do this anymore. But I'm like putting in the effort. I was focusing a lot on my commissions. I was like really wanting to make sure that they looked great, that people loved them. And so, yeah, it was just, it's just really great for me now. And I can definitely tell that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do because I'm different than when I was doing nursing.
Right. So for people who don't know, what is a commission?
The commission piece is someone could DM you on Instagram or email you being like, hey, can you draw my boyfriend and I? Or they'll say something like that. Or it's pretty much a request. It's different than if you were to open up an art shop and then sell your own artwork, like your prints. This is like a special, like customized piece to them.
Awesome. Yeah. So Mikayla actually has done the cover art for this podcast. So that is her work. She's so brilliant. And yeah, she's so good. And I really think her story is so amazing because I've seen that art has been, ever since I've known her, she's been doing art. We did art together 1 year and then I went and did leadership and she stayed, but her art was just so beautiful. And I was always like, oh my goodness, you are so good. Not just digitally, like she was like really, really good. And I was always so jealous of your art because I'm like, it's so perfect. And you were like,
I loved our art class together.
Yeah.
Because it really showed how similar and how different we can be.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to art, you're a perfectionist through and through.
Yeah.
You are a perfectionist. And, you know, it was just really interesting to see you kind of have a breakdown.
Yeah, in art class.
Over a simple painting. And I'm like, just paint it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and so I loved our art class together. I think those were like some of the best times and we just had so much fun. Yeah. You know, that's when you usually had counseling. So we'd only have like one period together, but it was great. I love doing art with you, but it shows how like we kind of balance each other out in that way.
Yeah, we really do. So I think that's so amazing. Like I said, I've just watched you and seen where you're going, and I can tell the difference from you deciding to do what you really want to do. But I'd love for you to go into a little bit more detail about, you know, how you felt, like really, really felt. I know you said you were really like depressed and lonely, and then not that everything became perfect, but what was it like? Like, I know you said you started trusting yourself a bit more.
Yeah, I just felt like this huge weight was lifted off of my shoulders. There wasn't anything like, there was no pressure because I was doing what I wanted to do. And now I've decided that I'm going to go to art school, which I was accepted into, and then I'm starting in September of this year. But, you know, there was no pressure of going to school. It was kind of just like, hey, well, let's do this and let's just start drawing for a little bit and see where that takes you. And you know, I put myself out there. I advocated for myself, which has been a little bit difficult. That's been, you know, knowing my worth as well, in terms of like, you know, pricing for commissions and everything, which you and your mom have helped me a lot with that. Shout out to Debbie. But yeah, it's been really interesting, and I'm excited to start school. I think that I can tell a difference between how excited I am to start school than I was when I was doing my nursing. Like now I'm like really excited because I know that I can do this and I know that I can do it well. And then I'm going to learn so much. And that's what I'm really excited to learn more about, just drawing and how to draw. Yeah. And yeah, I can't wait to start.
And I think the big difference is that you've made the decision fully on your own, to do this, right? And And I'm sure that was pretty big. I'm curious to know how your mom reacted to all of this, of the dropping out of school and then kind of finding your way back to school. But I'm sure she was a little bit like,
she's worried.
Yeah.
She won't say that she was, but I think she was.
Yeah.
She was a little bit on edge about it. I think just because she wants me to make money and have a living.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know, it's hard, I guess, for like the older generation to kind of understand that things aren't the way that they used to be in terms of like art.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because at the time, you know, the only way that you could be successful as an artist was working for Disney as an animator or, you know, anything like that. And even then, those people don't get paid that much. You know, only the really great ones did.
Yeah.
The ones that did movie after movie after movie, but it was hard, like really difficult. And even then it was like the only time that you could really get a job in that industry was if you went to Cal Arts, which is a really, really intense art school. It's hard to get into, but that's where all the great animators went. And so that was, at the time, that was kind of the only way that you did it. And now it's completely different. You know, they'll find you through social media or anything.
Yeah.
So but I think that she's starting to come around to it because I think she is more happy with my mood and my mental health.
Yeah.
And seeing how much it's gotten better.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what she's most happy with, that she trusts me in that way.
Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, all of it comes from a place of love. Absolutely. All our parents want is for us to succeed. So I don't think it's coming from anywhere negative, but I think that that's also an important piece because it sounds like you did a lot of the nursing stuff because you thought that's what your mom wanted and you thought that's what everyone else did when they had people in the health industry or when their parents were in the health industry. And so this really feels like your own decision, you becoming your own person almost kind of thing.
Yeah, it definitely does that. It feels like this is kind of what I'm meant to do. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it feels great. I'm really like happy with it. And I think that we really do have COVID to thank for that. You know, COVID obviously is horrible and there was a lot of bad that happened. 2020 was a horrible year. But it was also kind of a blessing in disguise in a way, especially for me. And I know it helped you a lot as well. Yeah. Because it really made us think about, you know, what are we doing?
It makes you take a step back because for me, it was go, 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 go. And it's like, stop everything, literally everything. So I feel like, yes, you're right. COVID, there's a lot of negative things, but it really gave us the opportunity to sit with ourselves and really like push us to our limits, you know, like online school and stuff. And really question, like you just said, like, what do I want to do?
Yeah, we were having to stay home. You know, people were doing projects that they've been putting off for years. And it really made you also think about what's so important in life. Yeah. You know, family is so important. And, you know, being with those you love are so important. And it really gave us all that time to just kind of be with ourselves. Mm-hmm. But of course, you know, mental health rates went up quite a bit. Yeah. Because again, those people that lived alone, that were having to be alone for that long, that's a lot on your mental health too. Yeah. But I think that, you know, for you and I especially, it helped so much. And I think that it helped a lot of people as well. Yeah. You know, it wasn't all negative.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I have 4 final questions that I ask everyone. Before I jump into that, is there anything else you want to talk about?
I don't think so. I think I've shared.
Yeah, I think you have as well. I'm a lot. Yeah, we have. And again, I just think it's so amazing that you're choosing to follow your heart. And I think that's such an important message for young people, younger people than us, because we're pretty young. But I think even older people, it's just really showing them that it's not too late to do what you love. If you're stuck in like a corporate job that you hate, you have the choice to change your life do what you love. And I think that it's just like such a great reminder and a great example of that. It's never too late. And also it's just so important to follow your heart, because everything changes with your whole body when that happens.
Well, exactly. Like I'm a firm believer in, doing obviously what will give you a living for sure. Mm-hmm. But I would rather do something that I love doing every single day and not making as much as I would a different career than doing a career that I hate and, still getting that money. Yeah. Because for me personally, it's about your mental health and your well-being is the most important thing. And so if you're doing something that you absolutely love doing, you can make a living out of that. It's not impossible.
Yeah. Great message. Great message. All right. So here are the last four questions that I'm going to ask you. So what is some of the best advice you've ever received, and who was that from?
Oh my gosh. I don't know.
You think about it. It's all good.
Hard. I mean, my mom has really given me like just great advice. Mm-hmm. Always. Be kind to everybody, just do what you love. Do it for yourself. Yeah. Just everything. She's just taught me everything. I owe everything to my mom. I think that she's just given me the best advice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just a really strong thing. Maybe not the advice that she's given me, but what she's done with her life. But like just her life story, I think just what she's been through in her life has really been a great example for me. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't maybe say the best advice that I've been given, but just the example that she has shown to me of how to just do what you love to do, not worrying about settling down and getting married and not having to worry about that, but also just like going through it. Just do what you love to do. Worry about that stuff later. Mm-hmm. She really taught me that. Just, she moved away when she was little from a completely different country. And so like alone, and she just, she's a really big inspiration for me. That's just what I would say for that. Just everything that my mom has taught me.
Brilliant answer. Yeah. Okay. So next one, what is the worst advice you've ever received?
I don't know. I've never really received bad advice necessarily. I mean, I've obviously been told things that's like, you're never going to make it. Like you can't do this because of this. It's a tough one because like there's nothing in my mind that's like, that someone told me that I'm like, that's the worst advice I think I've ever heard in my life. Because the people I surround myself with, I feel like lift me up pretty well and like can give good advice. Mm-hmm.
That's fine. Okay, next question. So what are you most grateful for in life?
Oh my gosh, everything. Friends, family. I think just everything. We go through things, but I think that everything happens for a reason. I think the people that you surround yourself with are so important, and that really can determine how good you do, because the people that love you are going to lift you up. I definitely think that my friends, I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for my parents, my dogs, just the people I surround myself with. I'm just so thankful for that.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Okay, last question. So what advice would you give your younger self? Or if you can't think of like your younger self, maybe someone in the younger generation?
Don't stress too much. Everything will come together when it happens. I think that a lot of people, not so much myself, but I think a lot of the younger generation are really wanting to hurry up and like get out of their childhood even, worrying too much about things. Like my advice would just be to just chill out a little bit and wait, because even when you graduate high school, You have so much time. So if you don't know what you want to do, don't worry about it. It's going to come together. You're going to find who you are, and you need to take the time to do that because, you know, not everybody knows what they're going to do right out of high school. It's rare when those people know what they want to do.
Yeah.
So just stop rushing to grow up or to figure things out right away. It will all come together. In the end, you just have to go with the flow and do what you love.
Yeah. Wise words from Mikayla Burkart. Thank you so much for sitting down with me today and letting me interview you and opening up just so beautifully and telling us your story. So thank you for joining me today.
Of course. Thank you for having me. It was really great. I love talking with you always. So we always have.
Thank you so much, Mikayla. Your interview and conversation was so amazing. I'm so grateful that you shared your heart and opened up and talked about all the amazing things that you're doing now, but also all the challenges that you have gone through. If you have a story that you would like to share with the world that you think that will help anyone, please reach out to me. You can message me anywhere on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, or even in the comment section. Let me know what resonated with you, as I love to hear your feedback and what you think about all these interviews. So thank you again to you for listening and watching and showing up, and I hope you have a great day.